Welcome to another exciting episode of the $1 Million Peddlers. I'm Papergoy.
And I'm Mr. Magazine.
And anybody new to the channel, I'm Papergoy, and I sell out of my house. I've got a day job. I've got about 40,000 items up between eBay and Amazon, and I'm doing the best I can.
And I'm Mr. Magazine with a big warehouse, 500,000 items, and 15 employees.
Nice.
Sometimes.
So, have you ever felt like a prisoner to the sites that you sell on?
I do every day of my life. Yes, I do.
3 hots and a cot, right?
Yeah.
So this kind of was spurred because of a situation that you had on Amazon,
Yep.
where you had an overseas seller and purchased an album, a record album. And why don't you take it away from there?
So I think with shipping was like $100, and I think apparently it was either a wrong version or a condition issue. He wasn't happy with it.
And I'm going to cut in here as far as wrong versions on Amazon.
Yeah. That's...
As I remember the album, I believe it was kind of a classical type album. In other words, it wasn't a Rolling Stones album.
Right.
To anybody wanting to get into selling records on Amazon, you can make money selling classical because you've sold a fair number of them.
Sure.
But it's very difficult to match them up, especially because a lot of them don't have pictures.
Yeah, a lot of different versions.
Because you'll have something like Vivaldi, The Four Seasons. Ooh, look at me,
Yeah,
all
nice.
cultured and everything.
Yeah.
Or you'll have a Bach or a Beethoven, and it'll be the Cleveland Orchestra, but it'll have a different person conducting it.
Yeah.
And it'll be a Columbia instead of, or it'll be this, or it'll be that.
Or it could say Cleveland, but the record's showing a Philadelphia Orchestra. It was always mixed matches and stuff all the
It's
time.
so difficult without a picture, and even with the picture too,
Yeah.
because sometimes they re-release them. And
Or they look very similar too, so it's easy to mistake one from the other.
so to anybody wanting to sell classical music on Amazon, you can do it, and you can sell them, but it's not for the faint of heart. I would definitely say
Yeah.
I would definitely say that. I would almost take the classical and sell it on a Discogs, although actually Discogs isn't too hard to find the stuff, or sell it on eBay because then you know exactly what it is. But let me give another tip on that as well. If you've got a pile of them, classical music that you are going to list on eBay, I would definitely, if you've got poolers like you have, look at the picture.
Oh, you need to look at the picture.
Look at the picture, because otherwise you're going to end up having mix-ups and problems just because of that. So that's a little bit of an aside there, a little bonus knowledge for you.
Right.
You can make good money on the classical, but they are a beast unto themselves as far as handling it.
Yeah.
So you had a record listed,
Yep.
and it ended up being a mix-up at some point along the line where the gentleman got the record.
Yeah, so he goes, this is a fraud, this is a scam, I'm contacting Amazon, blah, 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 blah. And once they do that, the red flags come up, I cannot afford for them to contact Amazon. Generally, if someone has an issue and they email me, we solve it one way or the other, I refund them. But the last thing you want them to do is call Amazon, because Amazon does not take too kindly to these people. They want these people 100% satisfied and happy. And I'm not saying they don't care about the seller, but the buyer has to be 100% satisfied. So I just refunded them, keep it for free, because when you get into that and say 3 customers called Amazon in a week about my products, they want to boot me off, they want to suspend me, I got to give them a business plan. Even though I just sold 1,000 items, they're worried about 3 newbies on Amazon that supposedly got the wrong item. You have to prove to them that they're either lying or it's just a headache not worth it. So I told Papergoy, I go, I'm just refunding them. It's a headache that'll be gone. It's $100, but I'd rather not have them contact Amazon because someone else just contacted them recently about some other nonsense. So I go, they're going to not that they're going to suspend me, but they threaten to suspend you, and that's the stress you got to deal with every day, at least for me, because I have 250,000 items up, and then my business is gone kaput if they just cancel me and delete everything. So,
well, I think one of the biggest problems about that is the fact that Amazon is judge and jury, and you are more or less. I mean, I don't know if you've ever done any reading about the Japanese justice system.
no.
I really need to get out more.
Yeah.
They have something like a 98% conviction rate. They do a few things in the interrogation room and get people to admit from time to time, but whatever. Just don't go to Japan and do anything wrong.
Right.
Don't end up on their radar. But the point is, Amazon's pretty much the same way. and it's tilted against you to start with.
Right.
The buyer said this happened. Whether or not it truly did or not, whether or not the buyer understood or misunderstood, a lot of times, the buyer will say, this is terrible condition, because they don't understand about the stock photo.
Right.
And yet, you could have put your own photo on it and said, listed as acceptable, put your own photo on it,
Right.
and in the description area said, this has a corner missing off of it, et cetera, et cetera. Been completely straightforward about what you're listing. Mm-hmm. And if they're not happy, you've already got 2 strikes against you in Amazon's eyes.
Right.
And you got to go a long way to prove to Amazon that this was a situation where the buyer didn't understand what he was buying because he didn't read everything. Sure. So better not to get in that situation if you can.
Right. Well, first of all, they shouldn't be threatening to kick anyone off, whether it's eBay or Amazon, and that's, they're the judge and jury. If we don't like it, we can suspend you, end your listing, whatever. They should give you like the warnings, or say, hey, you're going to get warnings. And it shouldn't be the same for everyone, meaning if you have 10,000 Amazon items on and you have 5 issues, it shouldn't be the same if I have 250,000 on with 5 issues. Obviously, it's a smaller issue for me than it is for you, but I'm still threatened to get kicked off, just like you would be. So I don't know. It's just very frustrating. It's stressful, and you have to live with it because you need them, or at least I do. So.
Well, and I've got. I don't really have any issues right now on Amazon that I'm aware of, and my eBay's fine. But that still doesn't mean that you're not afraid of a mark on your record.
Yeah.
And again, I've been suspended back in the day. I remember I got suspended for a miniature cap gun because I didn't have the orange thing in the end of it. But this was back.
And it was one item.
It was A, it was one item, and B, it was back before it was publicized that you needed to do it.
Right.
Just out of nowhere, nobody else was doing it either. And then out of nowhere, they're like, "Oh, you need this. You're suspended for 3 days."
But again, they should give you a warning to teach you what the mistake you made, and then obviously you'll never make that mistake again.
No, I won't even list cap guns. Yep.
But the whole point of suspending you and costing you money for 3 days is treating you like a child, like go in the corner and sit there for 3 days instead of saying, "Hey, a lot of people make this mistake. It's a serious mistake. We know you didn't," and they should look at your track record. You don't have one positive. You didn't just put a cap gun on and try and sell it.
But even if you did,
right? Look at the track record. Though. To me, looking at the track record, like, hey, this guy doesn't deal in these, so obviously he didn't know about this. But they don't investigate it to that extent.
Well, but even if you did, even if random neighborhood kid listed a cap gun as his first item. Mm-hmm. Okay, we've ended this item.
Right.
Don't list it again unless you do this.
No one got hurt with it. No one got in trouble. No one's getting sued. But they take it to this high level where they have to suspend you, threaten to suspend you, and to me, it's really ridiculous.
Well, I ended up which I know I've related the story before. I ended up calling them, and my suspension was lifted because I did note in there the size, and it was a very small. It was like this big of a cap gun.
Okay.
And so the purpose of the orange thing in the end is so that people know it's not an actual gun.
Right. Well, sadly, a lot of people just put an orange thing on the end. It's just a piece of orange raw. It could be anything. They just want to see something orange, which is kind of crazy. But
other people, what they'll do too is they'll Photoshop something in.
Yeah.
People
it's
Photoshop
crazy,
just to be able to get the listing on.
And it's okay that if you do that, which is absurd to me, but it is what it is. I don't deal with them ever, so.
Nope. And that was the lesson that I learned.
Right.
I learned not to deal with them. And so I could be at a sale and see lots and lots of cap guns really, really cheap. I wouldn't deal with them. Maybe I'd buy them and then figure out how to sell them at some point.
I'd sit them in the corner. I've had bunches, tons of them, and I just sit them in the corner. And then if the local auctioneer comes in, here, take them. I don't care what I get.
I was going to say, I'd hope that
I don't pay much for them, or they're part of a deal. So take them. Good luck.
Yeah, and that would be exactly what I do. I might, obviously, if I go to your estate and you've got 500 cap guns that all look older, and you say $100 for all of them, well, I'm going to buy them. But
do you remember those ones we had on the package? I bought it was from the 60s or 70s.
Oh yes.
It was in a case, so there was like 12 in the box, and they were all unopened. And we listed one, and then we got a warning, I think. We called up. They wanted us to cut a hole in the package to put an orange thing on the end of it. It's like, it's a kid's gun. It's not a real gun.
And it's
unopened.
Well, and it's packaged so that you can see.
It wasn't altered. You can't alter it, but they wanted us to alter it just for their guidelines. Crazy. So I think we just took them off. We didn't even mess with them.
Well, the crazy thing about that is it's still on card. You can read on the card what it says that it is.
Exactly. Well, then you got Amazon. If you have Star Wars little figures with little toy 1/2 inch blasters, and it says blaster in the title, that is a violation because their algorithm thinks it may be a real gun that's a blaster gun of some sort. So we've had tons of Star Wars ended for that reason alone. It's just Amazon's ending stuff daily. Either the price is too high, or copyright infringement, or they think something's a weapon, and it's just frustrating. So
Yeah, so I guess the positive side is, we do well on these sites and we need these sites. And certainly we need these sites. They don't need us, I mean, is what it comes
Obviously,
down to.
Yeah, right.
We need them, and, I do appreciate them being there, and I do appreciate their global reach, and I do appreciate all of the buyers that they can bring to us.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't be where I am now without these sites.
Right.
That being said, and I understand they're dealing with millions of sellers. And there are some sellers out there that do try to circumvent the rules. I mean, go back 20 years, we tried to circumvent the rules with, the lawn darts, the jarts.
Oh, yeah.
You would list it, and it would sell, and you'd ship it out, and then you'd get a warning that, this has been taken off our site, do not list it again. And 6 months later, you got another one, and you listed it,
Right.
and you got another warning, and you're like, yeah. But again, it was hard back then to pass up, hey, I'm
Right.
paying $5, I can sell it for $35. That's
Yep.
pretty good money back in the
Sure.
day for that. Now, of course, I wouldn't do that, but back then, I did, and I think you did as well, and
Yeah.
various things like that. We're dumb kids,
Yeah.
is what it comes down
Live
to.
and learn.
So I understand why they have to have the rules, and I understand why they have the algorithm to do it, but it's almost like they punish you first, and then you can make your appeals,
Right.
as opposed to taking any look at
Yeah.
hey, you're not the kind of guy that's doing this. You've got 100% or 99.9% positive.
Yeah.
99.9% of the items are tracked on time. We don't get complaints about you.
Right.
All right. And obviously, it's if you're doing something, if I were trying to sell a real gun, okay, yes, end me immediately.
Yeah,
Obviously,
for sure.
that's so far beyond the pale. Or I'm trying to sell
Right.
alcohol or cigarettes. That's so far beyond the pale that yes, you should get suspended, and then you figure it out.
Right.
But if it's something or other, hey, 2 customers aren't happy with the records that they got.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's stop. Let's talk to you. Let's figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
And I know the sites in the past have had, eBay I know had the concierge service, et cetera, et cetera. They really almost need to bring that back for the larger sellers, that the larger sellers can talk to a person that handles
Yeah.
the account and can kind of check in once a month or once every couple of months
Yeah.
and say this and that. Hey, we did notice this, we did notice that,
Yeah.
and kind of treat you as a teammate.
Yeah, well, we know better now. We would try to be proactive and call ahead and say, can we list these? Because, just those knives I was telling you about, picked up a knife collection, 100 knives, whatever. I know there's got to be some you can't sell. So we called up, and there was a million things, we could sell and we couldn't. I said, just send me the list of what we can't, and then we'll narrow it down. We'll make sure we don't list those items. But if you don't do that, and I list 100, maybe 5 are illegal or against violation policy, whatever. So be proactive and give eBay a call.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. Is you list 100, and which isn't something you deal in normally,
Right.
And so you have 5 of them that are against the rules.
Yeah.
And the other situation too. Let me ask you this quick question:
Yeah.
when you got the list, how easy was it for you as a novice to understand?
There was a few that stood right out, obviously, like the
Switchblades,
Chinese
yada, yada.
Star, the switchblades. But there's some things like swords. Obviously, I'm not going to put on.
But you can list swords, correct?
Yeah, I mean certain sizes, I guess. I don't
Like if they're
yeah.
the decorative ones.
Yeah, the decorative ones, the collectible ones are like paintings and artwork on them, things like that. But if there's certain, real legitimate, I don't know, Hanzo sword, I'm just saying, no, you can't. Certain ones that are 2 feet long, so there are some rules. But the list wasn't that long. I want to say maybe 10 types of knives and swords are against policy.
Okay, but it was easy enough to figure out.
Yeah, definitely not a problem.
Because I don't know anything at all about knives, so you had.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I know
But
what a
most
switchblade is. et cetera, et cetera.
90% were pocket knives. Some were a little bigger or decorative or NASCAR. So I mean, it's all legitimate stuff. So we should be good for the most part.
So do comment down below. Well, hit the like button, and do comment down below if you could about various problems that you've run into where, and again, we're all trying to make a living. We're all trying to do things the right way, but every once in a while something or other happens, whether it's a buyer misunderstands what he's getting, whether it's you list something that was against policy that, again, you may not even think that it's against policy. And I'll give you a
Right.
perfect example before we leave. Would be for years and years and years and years, there was no problem listing Black Americana on eBay.
Right.
You know, so I listed on eBay 3 years ago, and you know, you could list a little black sample, you could list this, you could list that,
Right.
and I stopped listing for 3 years because I had a child, or because I had a change in my career, or because you know my parents were ill, whatever the case happens
Yeah.
to be. I stepped away for 3 years. Now I do know it's all on you to know what you can and cannot do. I understand that, but there also are, why would you ever think that?
Yeah.
You know, why 3 years ago there was no problem at all listing Little Black Sambo. I got a list of kids' books I bought 3
Right.
years ago. You know, I'm not going to look up whether I can sell a Captain Kangaroo Little Golden
Yeah,
book.
exactly.
Because why would I not be able to list Captain Kangaroo?
Well, even Washington Redskins. I mean, it's
On Amazon,
the
yep.
Dukes of Hazzard. Just things like that. It's crazy.
Yeah, so you know, you list the toys and books back 3 years ago. You have a
Right.
box of stuff left over. You've got, who did the Dukes of Hazzard? Was it Matchbox, or is it Hot Wheels? They did the little one.
It was Ertl, I think.
Oh, Ertl.
Yeah.
Yeah, the small one.
Yep.
So you've got a box of Hot Wheels toys that you picked up, and you're sitting there listening, and you're going, oh yeah, you know, whatever, the Camaro, the this, the that, the
Right.
Dukes of Hazzard, and you list that. Because why wouldn't you be able to list it? It's
Right.
a toy along with all these other toys, and you listed 3 years ago. There was no problem.
Right.
And then you grab your box of books, and you're listing the Captain Kangaroo Little Golden book, the Mickey Mouse Little Golden
Yeah.
book. You get to the Little Black Sambo, you just list it. All of a sudden, you've got 2 strikes against you,
Yeah.
and you had no reason to expect
Right.
those were strikes.
Exactly.
None at all,
Right.
because 3 years ago there was no problem.
Yep.
But things have changed, and I guess the question comes in: yes, you should research and you should know, but why would you?
Yeah, well, I'm not going to go back into 250,000 listings and look for these things either. It's crazy.
So hopefully that helps you some. We do the best that we can. You run the best you can, and try to make the customer happy, and try to sell a good product at a fair price. But sometimes it's not easy.
True.
We will see you next video.
Take care. Bye-bye.